I have a $5 bill, 1963. It has red ink on it, and at the top, instead of saying Federal Reserve notes,
U.S.
it says United States notes. Now, the difference is that if we issue money through the Treasury, we don't have to pay interest on it to those international bankers. And Bob, the caller, was quite correct. I think Kennedy was a bit naive. He really thought he was president of the United States, leader of the free world, and he thought that he could make decisions in the best interest of the public, namely issue money that's interest-free, and he did not probably stop to realize that the only other U.S. president to issue interest-free money was Abraham Lincoln, who issued greenbacks to support the war between the states. And both of those men, and I don't think this is a coincidence, both of those men were shot in the head in broad daylight.
Absolutely. Thank you for the call, Bob. Any comments on why the establishment wanted Kennedy dead, Robert Groden?
Well, the president was ending the Vietnam War, which was big business and a lot of money to very, very powerful people, including Lyndon Johnson. Johnson was a major stockholder in, I believe, 7, perhaps more, but at least 7 companies that had Vietnam War contracts. He made billions off the war himself. And it's not the only reason why the president was killed, but it was certainly one of the major reasons.
It's unbelievable.
Another major reason was he and his brother Bobby, the Attorney General, were fighting the only effective war in this nation's history against organized crime. Whereas Richard Nixon's closest friend was Bibi Rebozo, a mobster, President Kennedy and his brother Bobby were fighting a very effective war against people like Carlos Marcello, Santos Trafficante, Johnny Roselli, Jimmy Hoffa.
Who all were contracted by the mob for opium, cocaine, you name it, gambling, prostitution.
That's the CIA. And the CIA was gutting out American servicemen in Vietnam, filling their bodies with heroin and sending it back to the United States. That's how they were funding their international operations.
And Kennedy had vowed to destroy the CIA. He said he was going to split it apart and into 1,000 pieces and cast it to the winds. So what is the strongest motivation for murder? Self-defense. So the mafia, it was self-defense. To the CIA, it was self-defense.
Well, let's go further there. This is part of what governments do throughout history, and to be childlike and say it doesn't exist, that's what's brought us to this point we are now, being openly raped by the bankers, $5 trillion stolen in 5 weeks right in front of everyone. But it is a great tragedy because that's when the shadow government really was able to fully take over this nation. Let's go to John in Wyoming. John, you're on the air.
Hi, Alex. I want to follow up on what Jim said just a while ago, that yes, it was on June 4th, 1963, when JFK issued Executive Order 11110, which recalled the Federal Reserve notes, and I have one of those United States notes. It's a series 1963. It's a $2 bill. And indeed, this is what got him.
It's a $5 bill.
Yeah, but I have a $2 bill that's a series 1963, and it's also debt-free currency like that $5 bill that Jim has. But also, when I was living in Houston about 30 to 35 years ago, Channel 13, the ABC affiliate in Houston, showed an uncut copy of the Zapruder film, which, by the way, E. Howard Hunt's son was discussing with George Norrie shortly after E. Howard Hunt passed away, a couple of years ago, that shows that Corsican assassin on the grassy knoll hiding in the bush. They stopped the frame. You could see the bush halfway between Zapruder and Kennedy's Lincoln limousine, and they readjusted the focus to where the bush was in sharp focus, and you could see that well-dressed Corsican assassin wearing a suit, a tie, and a fedora.
Okay, I'm going to let you go, John. I appreciate the call because we're almost out of time with our guest, but we have the photo expert. We have the person who released the uncut Zapruder film. We have the person that enhanced it and looked at it. Is what he was just saying accurate, Robert?
It's a matter of interpretation. Yes, he's correct. There is somebody on the grassy knoll in the closing frames of the Zapruder film behind the fence. But it's not sharp enough and it's not close enough to draw any kind of a determination as to whether or not you cannot make an identification. There is somebody there, but as far as that goes, whether he shows in the film or not, he was there because the medical evidence proves it, the eyewitness testimony proves it, and certainly the acoustics evidence proves it.
Absolutely. Okay, let's go ahead now and take another call from Ronnie in Texas. You're on the air, Ronnie. Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Briefly, me and Oswald and Ruby all lived in Oak Cliff at the time, and I've made it my business to try to learn as much as I could all these many years, and I really appreciate your guests there, and it's no disrespect to them, but there's another great expert, that is, of course, Michael Collins Piper from the American Free Press, who wrote Final Judgment, the book that shook up my world and changed my life, and added up the real evidence from others. He didn't add any evidence of his own, but it points the finger of guilt directly to Israeli founder and first Prime Minister David Ben-Gurion and the Israeli organized crime family godfather of all godfathers, Meyer Lansky, and his gang.
And so well, hold on just a second. But no involvement, though, by the president or the U.S. government or anybody that covered it up. It's just only Israel, then.
No. My line about that is not who was involved, who wasn't involved. They involved everybody. They had the Dallas cops. They had, Johnson was probably involved. Who knows? But there's so many fingers of guilt on that thing. But and one of the main points that's been left out of everybody's book is that JFK smoked pot. He smoked pot. One of his early girlfriends, one of those girlfriends, made testimony about that, and then it was just kind of ignored.
Okay, let me just stop you right there. I believe I've even heard Jim, because we're all friendly here, but I think I've even heard Jim attacked before by other people for not saying it's all Israel or something. Jim and Robert Groden, what's your take on this whole Israel thing? I'm certainly not saying that Israel didn't do a lot of bad things, but how much evidence is it that Israel ran the killing of JFK?
Well,
none at all.
Go ahead, Robert.
None at all.
Right.
This is an anti-Semitic situation that began to go and detracts from where the real evidence is.
The thing is, Israel did not have the power to subvert the Secret Service, the CIA, the FBI, the U.S. military. Although I will say this, people, when you talk about Israel involvement in the Kennedy assassination, if you're looking at it at a lower level, that's really not even possible, as I just said. But if you look at it from the highest level, the people who created the state of Israel, Lord Rothschild is considered the father of modern Israel. And when you look at the people who created Zionism, who then created the state of Israel, who then created communism in Russia, who then created National Socialism, or the Nazis, in Germany, then you realize these are the same people who are the power structure, the true power structure of the United States. And yes, they at least had to acquiesce in the assassination of President Kennedy.
And there's claims that he wouldn't give nukes to Israel. And
that's true.
And that's what happened. I would interview those people. It's just folks have been too nasty to me when I'm just open and friendly. Like if it's a Tex Mars or somebody, we just have them on because they're friendly. It'd be like if a neighbor ran up and threw paint on your face and said, "You didn't invite me over for tea." And I'm like, well, if I'd have known you wanted to come over for tea, I would have had you over for tea, but you've thrown paint on me. I'm not going to have you on now. Okay, you know what, guys? I'm going to twist your arms. Go to the bottom of the hour. One more 5-minute segment with both of you because I want to go to David, Tim, and Josh and others. We'll be right back.